Tesla's Model 3, Cupra Born electric hot hatch, and the MG4. Three very impressive electric cars, but one of them needs to go on a major diet and eat salad every day for at least a year. Cupra, they've just released the Born electric. They're calling it a hot hatch. Is it really a hot hatch? Well, depends on your interpretation. Now let's compare it to two other cars. The MG4, which it's bizarrely almost identical to, so similar, it's very strange, size, motors, anyway. And also the Tesla Model 3. How does it stack up against these two rivals? Well, let's compare size, specs, features, performance, and see if we can come up with a winner. You'll be surprised. Two of them are very close to each other. One of them, yeah, it's a ways off. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm the Electric Viking. Great to see you. Welcome to all the new subscribers. Welcome back, everyone else. Thanks for tuning in. Hey, thanks, by the way, for subscribing to the channel. I really do appreciate that, because if you subscribe, it actually helps the algorithms here and more of our videos get shown to more people. So big thank you. Really appreciate you helping the channel out like that. So MG4, I just reviewed that, compared that to some other vehicles on the channel. If you haven't seen those comparison reviews, it's worth checking it out because it's getting rave reviews. And of course, MG4 is a vehicle made by SAIC in China. Now, interestingly, no one seems to really care about that. They're just saying, this is a great car, we love it, it's awesome. Cupra Born. Well, it's very similar to the MG4. But one thing that's not similar is the price. The price is it's quite a bit more expensive. Now, for those of you in Australia, you've probably seen the Cupra Born has just been released. The price of the vehicle in Australia, it's going to be about 66,000 Australian dollars. For those of you in America, that's around 43,000 US dollars right now. Meaning it'll be a pretty similar price, just a little tad cheaper than Tesla Model 3 here in Australia. So I think it's fair to compare it because they're very, very close in price. Now we should also compare the new Cupra Born to the MG4 because the MG4 and the new Cupra Born are, well, very remarkably similar. They're almost identically sized. Battery pack size is not all that different, and they're also rear-wheel drive, and they also have very similar power. So let's see which one is the winner. Okay, size. First of all, Model 3 is a much bigger car than both of them. Model 3 is 4.75 meters long. It's wider than both the MG4 and, of course, the Cupra Born. But before we get to that, I'm going to estimate for you guys a price on the MG4. Now, the MG4 in the UK is priced at, for the equivalent model to this Cupra Born that we're going to compare in this video that's coming to Australia, it's priced at about £10,000 less, about £9,000 less. So that's about 12,000 US dollars, or about 16,000 Australian dollars in price difference between the two. So for you Aussies, if you've seen the Cupra Born, my recommendation is before you go out and buy one of those, just wait a second to see the price of the MG4, because I think you'll find that it'll be excellent value in comparison. Now, how do they compare in price? Tesla Model 3, the base standard model, is about $70,000 in Australia, in comparison to the Cupra Born at $65,000. So it's only $5,000. That's about 3,000 US dollars more. So there's that to consider as well. And of course, the Model 3 is the bigger car. So Model 3, 4,750 millimeters long, around about that. Boot size in litres, you guys in the US, you already know what it is. Aussies, it's around 430 litres for the boot size for the Model 3, but it's also got a frunk, and the interior space is bigger as well, of course, because it's a much bigger car. The size of the Cupra Born is 4,322 millimeters long. It's 1,809 millimeters wide and 1,540 millimeters tall. And it's got a 2,766 millimeter wheelbase. The size of the MG4, it's 4,287 millimeters, so slightly, just a tiny bit shorter than the Cupra Born, 1,836 millimeters wide, and it has a wheelbase of 2,705 millimeters. As you can see, the Cupra Born and the MG4, very, very close in size. What about the range between these three? Tesla Model 3 has 272 miles of range. That's 440 kilometers approximately. Cupra Born actually has more range than the Model 3. It's got a big battery pack for the size of the car. In fact, the battery pack in this vehicle that we're comparing here is 77 kilowatt hour pack, making it probably the biggest battery pack in a car this size. The pack gives the vehicle 511 kilometers of range and 317 miles, which goes sort of some way towards justifying that pretty significant price for a car this size. MG4 has 281 miles of range. That translates to 450 kilometers. That's using the bigger battery pack. So we're going off the 62 kilowatt hour pack. So essentially the battery pack in the Tesla Model 3, the standard base model range, it's the same size as the battery pack in the MG4. Thus, you're getting less range with the MG4 and the Tesla with a smaller battery pack. However, there is one advantage to that. They're much, much lighter. For example, the Model 3 standard range weighs only 3,550 pounds, which is 1,611 kilos, meaning the Model 3, which is a much bigger car than the Cupra Born, actually weighs 300 kilos less. That's a staggering difference. For a much bigger car, 300 kilos less. So while you might get 511 kilometers of range, or 320 miles of range from the Cupra Born, it's definitely going to be less efficient, and we're yet to see if those range numbers can be achieved in the real world. Now, I imagine they probably will be because it's a pretty big battery pack. So, realistically, out of these three, if you want to do the furthest distance, the Cupra Born could be a good choice. But what about charging speed? The Tesla Model 3 standard range can charge at 170 kilowatt fast charging speed. Cupra Born with the biggest battery pack can charge at 135 kilowatt charging speed, and the MG4 can charge at 150 kilowatt charging speed. So you can see here Tesla is definitely the quickest to charge, followed by the MG4, followed by, in third place, the Cupra Born. Now the Cupra Born has the biggest battery pack and charges the slowest. So in terms of your actual time to get from your destination to, say, 1,000 kilometers distance away, you're probably not going to get there any quicker in the Cupra Born, even with the bigger battery pack, simply because it's going to take you longer to actually charge that pack. And of course, you're going to need access to chargers. Tesla's charging network would be a pretty significant advantage there as well. Now, how about in my view, the most important part of the car, which is the battery pack itself? What chemistry does it use? You're probably thinking, if you're new to the channel, what are you talking about? What does that even mean? Well, there's two major different types of batteries being used in electric cars worldwide. A lot of cars made in China right now, in fact, about 70%, use lithium iron phosphate batteries. Most cars made outside of China, in fact, almost all of them, currently use NCM chemistry batteries. So like a lithium ternary battery, they're generally called. There's lots of different kinds of chemistries that lithium ternary batteries use, but usually they'll use a nickel, cobalt, manganese chemistry. So it's a combination of nickel, cobalt, and manganese, and then of course you have lithium in the battery. An LFP battery uses lithium, iron, and phosphate in the battery. Now, one of the big advantages of lithium ternary batteries is meant to be their weight. They weigh less. Well, as you can see, that hasn't really benefited the Cupra Born. It's a very heavy car for its size, and it does have a lithium ternary battery. So for whatever reason, that hasn't actually translated through. Now, one of the big benefits of LFP batteries, or actually one of the draw cards, is generally the weight. They're meant to be heavier, although that seems to be changing recently. But one of the big benefits of an LFP battery is you can charge it and discharge it fully. So that means you can discharge your battery to 0%, then you can charge it to 100%, and you're very unlikely to see any battery degradation. There are Teslas with lithium iron phosphate battery packs which have done more than 500,000 kilometers and have seen around 4 to 5% battery degradation over that period of time, meaning you still have about 95% capacity after 500,000 kilometers. LFP battery packs are the real world Swiss Army knife. They are really the kind of thing where you drive the car and you'll never really think, am I going to damage the battery by doing this? If I fast charge the battery, will I degrade its useful life. Yes, you will with a lithium ternary battery a little bit. Not a lot, but a tiny bit. So you don't want to fast charge your battery too often if you don't have to. Generally, a lithium iron phosphate battery is better for fast charging, better for discharging to 0% and actually charging to 100%. So you're actually going to get more real world range. And it's also safer. Lithium iron phosphate batteries are very rarely recalled and very rarely actually ignite or set fire to themselves. LFP batteries, in my view, are the battery chemistry of the future. And a lot of people are starting to agree with that now. In fact, Elon Musk even said that himself about 6 to 12 months ago. So the MG4 and the Cupra Born both use lithium ternary batteries. The MG4 smaller battery pack, that actually does use a lithium iron phosphate battery, but the bigger pack that uses an NMC ternary battery. In my view, that's a pretty significant drawback to the MG4 and the Cupra Born, and it's something that journalists never really talk about. I think probably the average journalist doesn't even know the difference. They don't even know, they don't even care. It's not something they're really interested in. But as an owner of a car, and as someone who's going to be affected by the resale value of the car, it's something that I think you definitely should consider. It also can affect your day-to-day life. Are you thinking to yourself, oh, do I need to charge it to 80%? Oh, have I charged beyond 80? Oh, I don't want to do that. You don't want to be thinking about that, do you? You want to just be able to just stick it on charge at night and not even think about it. You wake up in the morning at 100%, big deal, doesn't matter. With your ternary battery, yeah, you're going to be more conscious of potentially damaging your battery. That's just generally how people look at it, and most people have that kind of experience. And in my view, that's one of the key reasons why you want to go with an LFP battery pack if you can. Now, in the past, of course, you'd think, well, the extra weight is at a downside. But as you can see here, the Tesla vehicle is significantly bigger, and it weighs, like I said, 300 kilograms less than the Cupra Born. So then the question is the MG4 also heavy like the Cupra Born? They're basically the same size car, but of course the Cupra Born does have a bigger battery pack. In fact, it's a 15 kilowatt hour bigger pack. Well, no, the MG4 is lighter. It's 1,785 kilos. That's 3,935 pounds, which still means it's 180 kilograms heavier than the Tesla Model 3, which is a much bigger car, has an LFP battery pack. Therefore, it doesn't add up. These numbers just don't make sense. Surely the Tesla Model 3 would be significantly heavier than the MG4. It doesn't add up, right? What's going on? LFP battery pack in the Tesla Model 3, bigger car. Realistically, it should be weighing at least 300 kilos more than the MG4, but it doesn't. That's one of the big advantages of the Tesla vehicles. They're engineered incredibly well to keep the weight down, which helps with the vehicle's overall efficiency. Now, it's reasonable to suspect that the Cupra Born would weigh, say, 115 kilos, which is around about 245 pounds more than the MG4, because it's got that 15 kilowatt hour battery pack. So 140 kilos for that size battery pack, that extra size, that would actually make sense. Plus, of course, the Cupra Born is just that tiny little bit bigger as well. However, it's not really reasonable to suspect that the Model 3 would be so much lighter than both of these cars, of which it is significantly bigger than. So what about power and performance? Well, the MG4, MG say it'll do 0 to 62 miles an hour, or 0 to 100 in 7.9 seconds. Matt Watson from CarWow, he tested it on YouTube, and I saw in the video it easily did 7 seconds without him even trying. So I'm going to go straight up and just say that's a 7-second 0 to 62 mile per hour car. It has 150 kilowatt, which is about 204 horsepower, and 250 newton meters of torque. And its top speed is 160 kilometers per hour. The Cupra Born also do 0 to 62 or 0 to 100 in 7 seconds. It's got 170 kilowatt and 310 newton meters of torque. So it's got a bit more power and torque. Also got to lug around a fair bit more weight. So I'd say the performance of those two cars would be almost identical to each other. The Tesla Model 3 standard range has 165 kilowatt and 221 horsepower. It's also got 295 pound-feet of torque. However, it's capable of doing 0 to 62 miles an hour, 0 to 100 in about 6 seconds. So yeah, it's about 1 second faster, 0 to 100. Will that make it faster in the real world? Yeah, it definitely will. By a heap? Not a heap. Are you really going to care? Probably not. Realistically, what matters the most out of all these vehicles, in my opinion, is the driving experience, the resale value, the range, and of course the value for money. I think so far it's pretty clear that at least here in this situation, the Cupra Born is being beaten hands down by the MG4 and by the Tesla Model 3 in multiple categories. Now, in terms of the interior infotainment, the specs, the safety, the Model 3 is one of the safest cars ever tested. But as far as I can tell, it's pretty likely the Cupra Born and also the MG4 will get a 5-star safety rating. In fact, within the last few months, both of them did get a 5-star Euro NCAP safety rating. They both scored very, very well in safety tests, meaning their safety technology is also excellent, as is the Model 3s. When it comes to over-the-air updates, it's pretty clear Tesla wins this race. It's not even close between Tesla and any other manufacturer in the world in terms of over-the-air updates that will improve your car after you've purchased it. So what about reviews? All right, here is where we can compare them directly. Top Gear. Top Gear have reviewed the Cupra Born, this model we're talking about here. They've reviewed the MG4 and they reviewed the Tesla Model 3. Unfortunately, Top Gear have not reviewed the 2022 version of the Model 3, which is actually different and now has improved specifications based on what I've told you. There's one big improvement. I'll get to that in a second. So we only know the 2021 score. The Model 3 scored 8 out of 10 on Top Gear's website in 2021. The MG4 in 2022, this brand new car, it scored a 9 out of 10. And the new Cupra Born just a few months ago got a 7 out of 10 on Top Gear's site. And the one big thing I'm talking about with Tesla, you all probably know what it is, the range. Tesla's new 2022 version now has more range. In fact, the range has been increased to 491 kilometers on the stricter WLTP cycle. Meaning now you get an extra 50 to 60 kilometers of range out of your Tesla Model 3. Now, personally for me, it's a no-brainer between these three cars. If you need a bigger car, the Model 3 easily wins this test. If you're comparing the Model 3 to the Cupra Born, I think you'd have to be a little bit crazy to buy the Cupra Born. The Model 3 is very similar in price, will be very similar in price in many countries around the world. And frankly, the Model 3 is just the better car, hands down. It easily wins this test simply because the price is so similar. And you're getting a much bigger car, basically the same range. And it carries around about 700 pounds less weight. That's a huge difference. Now, if you're comparing the Tesla Model 3 and the MG4, this is a very different story. And it's a much tougher test because the price is actually quite different. I mean, you're looking at a Model 3 price average around the world in terms of, if you look at all the different countries and average it out, the Model 3 probably costs around $10,000 more. Is it worth paying the $10,000 more? Really depends if you need a bigger car. If you do need the bigger car, then yeah, absolutely. And it also depends if you value Tesla's supercharger network and how much you need that. Do you just charge at home 99% of the time? Or will you be doing a lot of road trips? Now, if you're doing a lot of road trips, I still think then the Tesla Model 3 is really the only choice. But if you're not doing a lot of road trips and you don't need a bigger car, I would then go with the MG4. What I want to know is, what's your take on this? What's your opinion out of these three cars? Did I get it right? Did I get it wrong? Which out of these three would you choose if it was available in your market right now? Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day, and I'll see you again on the next video. Bye-bye.